Okay, so we've now seen how to construct lists, extract information from lists by using indexing and slicing, and we've also seen how we can sort and change list elements. Now let's add elements to our list without adding to our original list definition, because that would be cheating. Now there are numerous ways in which we can add items to a list, and we'll cover them here. And the first way of adding items to lists is by using the plus symbol, just like we would in a numeric calculation. So here we have our shopping list with 10 items in it. And Tim has now decided to join the party, and he wants to add his list elements to the main shopping_list variable. So we'll create a variable called Tim's_food, and we'll set this equal to a list, so open a set of square brackets, and we'll put the strings pasta, carrots, and he wants honey. So we can now combine these two lists together by simply using the plus symbol, which is also known as list concatenation. So we can type out shopping_list, and then we can put plus, and then we can put Tim's_food. Now just note here that we can only use the plus operator with other lists. So if we were to try to add the string honey to the original shopping_list after the plus symbol, we will get an error. If we were to wrap the string in square brackets, we wouldn't, because at this point we'd be adding a list. Now the shopping_list variable after adding Tim's_food does not change. So in order to change the original list, we need to assign it back to the shopping_list variable. So we can now set shopping_list to equal shopping list plus Tim's food. And when we run this, we can see that the 3 items in Tim's food list have been added to the main shopping list. Now you may be thinking, hang on, I've seen this before. I've got shopping list written twice. I have a variable written twice in an addition calculation. Is there a more efficient way of being able to write this? Well, there is. We can use the plus equals operator like we saw earlier. So we can rerun the shopping list variable and the Tim's food variable, and now we can change the formula to be shopping_list plus equals Tim's_food. And this will now change the original shopping list and add Tim's 3 items to the end. Okay, so that's the first method of adding list elements to another list. The second method we're going to look at is known as the append method. So how do we use the append method? Well, let's go through step by step. Firstly, we'll be applying the append method on the shopping_list object. So we can start by typing shopping_list. And then we can put a dot because we want to access the append method for this list object. We can then put a set of parentheses after append, and inside these parentheses we'll press Shift and Tab. This brings up the documentation, and we see here we can append an object to the end of the list. So let's add another item, and we will simply put cheese in single quotes to add the string object cheese to the end of the list. When we run this, we don't get anything returned, but just like the sort method, we know that the original shopping_list variable has now been changed, and we can see cheese has been added to the end. Now the append method accepts one argument, but this can be an object. So if we had a new variable called Janes_food, and we set this equal to a list with 3 items in it, so we'll put peas, we'll put sweet corn, and we'll put jelly. If we now access the append method from the shopping_list object, inside the brackets we can place a list object inside. So we can put Janes_food, which we know is a list object. When we now take a look at shopping_list, we can see that the list object has been nested in amongst the list. So in order to get access to any of Jane's food, you would need to use multiple square brackets to access the underlying data. Okay, so that's the second way of adding items to a list. The third method is using the .extend method. So how does the .extend method differ from the .append method? Well, the extend method extends a list by appending elements from the iterable. So as you saw with the append method, we appended an object, i.e. a complete list, in amongst the original list. With the extend method, we actually add each individual element from the iterable, i.e. from the list, to the main list. So if we were to type shopping_list.extend, and then inside the parentheses we were to put Jane's_food, this will take each element, i.e. peas, sweet corn and jelly, and add them to the end of the shopping_list, not within a list itself, but as an individual element, just like apples, milk and bread. So extending the list will enable us to take an iterable and add those individual elements to the main list. And finally, we can add elements by using the insert method. Now the insert method gives us a little bit more control as to where we want to place an element inside of a list. So we'll start by typing shopping_list, and then we'll place a dot, and one of the methods we can call is called insert. We can then put parentheses, and inside these parentheses we have to provide two inputs. The first is a numerical index, and this relates to whereabouts in the list we want to place the item or the new element. The second parameter is the value we want to insert. So let's say we want to add just after apples, i.e. at index 1, the string ice cream. Well, we can first of all place 1 as our first argument, and our second parameter will be populated with the string ice cream. When we now take a look at shopping_list, we can see that we have apples at index 0, we have ice cream now at index 1, and everything else in terms of index has been shifted by 1. So milk is now at index 2, bread is at index 3, and so on. So the insert method allows us to place an element inside of the list at a specific index point. The second value expects an item, but this could also be an object such as a list or a tuple if you so desire. So to summarize, there are 4 ways we can add items to a list. We can use list concatenation where we add 2 lists together with the plus operator. We would need to assign the concatenation result back to the original variable or assign it to a new variable in order to use the result elsewhere in our code. Remember, we can also use the plus equals operator as a shorthand way of updating a variable's result. The second method is append, and this will take an object within the append's parentheses and add that object to the end of the list. The extend method will allow us to take each element within an iterable and add it to the end of the list. And the .insert method allows us to pick an index where we'd like to place an element, and we can then place a value of choice, whether this be a string object or a list, a tuple or a dictionary. Practice creating a list and then adding elements to it to observe the behavior and see the results. Try picking a place within the list and add an element to that specific location to make sure you're understanding exactly how the insert method operates.